Respected chief guest and the keynote speaker today, Shri Apunsok Saab, uh, guest of honor, Shri Jigmet Takpa Saab, my fellow presenters, and whoever is left here in the audience now. Uh, very good evening. Thank you for being patient uh, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak here at this platform. As Viren Bhai said, I'm here representing the Honorable CEC Saab from Kargil. He couldn't make it here for some reasons. So I've been asked to make my case for Kargil today. And so I would like to also thank One Buddhism and GKL and everybody for opening up this dialogue, which I think is at a very apt, opportune moment when Ladakh is sort of shifting into a new paradigm. And I think this is a good opportunity for whole of Ladakh to relook at the tourism scenario. Someone who's been in the tourism space since very recently, it's just been about 6 years since we started working. I won't say I'm an expert on the subject, but for someone who's been promoting Kargil for the last 6 years, we do have some learnings from the field. And I would like to share my 2 cents here about the tourism potential of Kargil and what are the challenges that we face there. So far, whenever we have talked about Ladakh tourism, it has largely been focused on eastern and central Ladakh, and western Ladakh, specifically Kargil as a region, has not been in the picture so often. And whatever may have been the reasons, Kargil has sort of felt a bit left out. But if you look at the tourism growth graph of Ladakh, it's been exponential and it's been highly progressive. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of disparity in terms of development because it has largely remained focused on just certain areas. I mean, this may sound like a rant, but this is the harsh reality today. But I'm not here to complain. I'm here with a renewed hope that things are going to change. And at the cusp of this new era for Ladakh, I think it's only wise to talk about how we move forward together. And to be able to do that, I think it's important to also delve a little bit into what went wrong in the past and unlearn those past practices maybe and take a fresh look at this tourism landscape of Ladakh. How do I go next? Okay. All right. I can't go full screen. Sorry. So, I mean, if we talk of Leh, obviously we all know that it's a well-established tourism destination. There are well-established products that we are selling here. So much so that we are now almost overshooting the carrying capacity of the place. And the challenges that we are facing here today are issues of groundwater, sanitation, waste management, and things like that. But since my focus is on Kargil, I'm going to talk more of that and bring your focus towards that region of Ladakh. When we talk of Kargil from a tourism perspective, it is still very unknown. It's one of the least explored regions of Ladakh despite its immense tourism potential. And to put things in perspective, I think I may be wrong with the statistics, but in 2018, I think close to 3.5 lakhs tourists visited Ladakh, specifically Leh. And mind you, they are staying at least 5 days in the region. But if you compare that with Kargil, we have had a footfall in 2018 of close to just 1 lakh tourists. And they have just stayed there for one night, at the most one night. Therefore, I think it is sort of imperative for us to look at both the regions from different lenses when we are thinking about strategies for tourism development in Ladakh, because the challenges for both the regions are completely different. While Leh has already evolved as an organized tourism destination, it has issues due to mass tourism. Kargil is still a very unexplored and disorganized market. Okay. So coming back to Kargil again, just to give you a brief introduction of all those who don't know the region, Kargil is obviously the second district of Ladakh, and it's equidistant, lies between Srinagar and Leh at an equidistant position, and also now because of that it has had a rich trans-Himalayan trade history right up till the mid 20th century, which is why Kargil now has about 6 different ethnicities settled there. And Kargil obviously came in on the world map after the 1999 conflict of India and Pakistan. Uh, there are 4 major valleys in Kargil, which are unique in their own right, which have their own culture, their history and heritage, and obviously they have there is their own potential for tourism activities which we can develop there. I have broadly tried to mark out, I'm not sure if you can see it clearly, but this is broadly how the 4 valleys, and of course I have included Zanskar in that region because it's part of the Kargil district, but of course Zanskar is a separate area altogether, separate region which needs separate sort of attention and strategies in its own right. So now I just want to take you quickly through the 4 regions and what is the potential there. I know we are running short of time, so I won't take too much of your time. So Dras, obviously it lies at the eastern part of Kargil district, and it is rich in its wildlife and flora and fauna, with the Himalayan brown bears, which is the keystone species in that region, which is still a very unknown species. We have no research on this animal so far. It has spectacular scenic landscape. It is also a place with religious significance for Hindu pilgrims. It of course has a war history. Known as the second coldest place in the world, it is I think the only place with the heaviest amount of snowfall across Ladakh, which makes it an ideal destination for winter sports. In Ladakh, in Dras region, have in fact started, since we're talking about ecotourism and rural tourism initiatives and things like that, we have started promoting this project called the Himalayan Brown Bear Project, which is basically a ecotourism initiative where we are trying to promote wildlife tourism through creating community livelihood initiatives, mainly trying to tackle human-animal conflict in that region, which is quite high. Then of course you have the Suru Valley, which is I call the crown jewel of Ladakh, because it is home to the 2 highest peaks of Ladakh, the Nun and Kun, and it has the highest concentration of 6,000 peaks within one range. So it's ideally an adventure paradise with a plethora of unclimbed peaks which are potentially climbable. There are so many trans-Himalayan trekking routes in that region. It has a lot of cycling trails. And in the recent times, what we have started promoting has been now 4 years, where we're promoting this Suru Boulder Festival, which is basically a rock climbing festival, which we do since 2014-15 now, where it's become an international event where climbers from all over the world are coming to climb in the area. And again, this is a community-based initiative where we are trying to involve as much as possible the local community into the space, especially the youth, and trying to get them involved into the activity. And we all know of the Aryan Valley, but of course there's a part of this particular tribe known as the Brokpa tribe who is also settled in the Kargil district. Obviously much has been talked about the Aryan people, but this place is also blessed with a very fertile landscape, so there's a good growth. I think this area has the largest amount of apricot production in the area, and especially if you visit the place in April, I think it's definitely worth a visit when the apricot bloom is in place. And they have this a particular festival called the Bonona Festival, which happens in October. It's a 4-day extravaganza, and it's truly, I think, a testimony to this unique tribe that is settled there. Then you have the Nindum Valley, which largely comprises of regions like Sapi, Mwakha, Mulbek, Bodkharbu, Hinasku, Chiktan. So it's a wide area which is known for its history and the legend and the lore. This region has the highest concentration of fortifications, which is over 10 forts, with the Chiktan Khar unfortunately now in ruins, as you can see in the photograph, as the centerpiece. This region also boasts of more than 3,000 species of medicinal and herbal plants. It again has a lot of trekking routes, very good wildlife in the region. Again, so in this area, what we have initiated since last 3 years is called Projects Bayul, which is basically in this village of Hinasco. It's a heritage village where we have tried to transform a 300-year-old heritage building into a cultural interpretation center with extensions of homestays, where the community now we have developed about 15 homestays in the village of about 40 households, where ecotourism activities are being carried on since the last 2 years. Another similar project in Kargil is the Unlock Khondarman Museum of Memories, which is a border settlement, which is a 500-year-old abandoned border settlement, where we have developed a museum of memories where these are where we have displayed artifacts of people who have been dislocated because of war. So this gives a different narrative to the whole story of Kargil, and now this is one of the top visited sites by tourists whenever people visit Kargil. I had to mention Zanskar. Of course, I need another 45 minutes to talk about Zanskar, but since it is in the Kargil district, I had to mention it. It's, of course, everybody knows Zanskar. We don't need any introduction for Zanskar. This is a picture of the Drangdung Glacier, which is Ladakh's second largest glacier. It's a 21-kilometer long glacier. Again, a lot of adventure possibilities for a lot of adventure activities and cultural activities in this area. So as Iqbal Bhai was mentioning about the 6 A's of tourism. So despite all this immense potential in Kargil, it's still, I think it's at a very nascent stage, and of course Kargil has seen many setbacks because of the 99 war, and because of the close links with Kashmir, and because that's the main entry gate into Kargil. Any sort of disturbance there automatically directly impacts the flow of tourists in Kargil. But despite many setbacks, I think the private sector is now trying to bounce back and trying to revive tourism, and we're trying to work hand in hand with the local administration. But I think what we lack now in Kargil is a well-defined vision document, as many of the speakers were talking about, which basically tells us how do we position ourselves in the market, and also defines policies and regulations to protect our natural as well as the cultural heritage of the place. To talk specifically about development of tourism in Kargil, I think we need to go back to those basics of these 4 to 6 A's, where we talk about attraction, where of course we have these different potentials in Kargil, but we don't have a structured product or a circuit which has a marketable USP that we can sell in the market. So that is something that is really lacking for Kargil right now, which is obviously the first thing. And then secondly, I think obviously is accessibility. We have an airport sitting in Kargil for the last 30-40 odd years, and we haven't had a flight service there. So I mean, of course, because the entry point is either from Srinagar or from Leh, and either it's expensive or it's inaccessible. So this becomes one of the major deterrents to promote tourism in Kargil. So I think, and also not just into Kargil, but I would say in and around Kargil, internal accessibility is also an important factor. Then we have accommodation. Of course, we have now, obviously the private sector is investing a lot, new hotels and guest houses are coming up, but I think we still need to improve the quality and quantity of accommodation in Kargil, maybe diversifying into other areas such as homestays, and incentivizing that would be, I think, a good attractive strategy. Then, of course, coming to amenities is where developing skilled human resource locally, which obviously adds to the experience of the visitor, which we are heavily lacking in Kargil right now. And the other factor, obviously, in amenities is your internet and mobile connectivity, which is not very reliable. And then the other factor would be uh, obtaining permits in the region of Kargil is one of the hardest things to do. Whether you're seeking a permit for trekking or a wildlife tour or a climbing permit or going to a restricted area. If we look at the scenario in Leh, obviously it's now systemized over the years. Things have become online. It's sort of become a single window system. But it's the opposite in Kargil. I mean, it's the biggest deterrent when it comes to hosting people in Kargil, because there is just no system in place. We don't know where to go and get these permits from. So these are like the fundamental problems and the issues that we are facing in Kargil, because of which we are not able to promote tourism in the area. So if we can address these challenges, I think Kargil can emerge as a new market with very interesting new fresh products to the already existing spectrum of products that Ladakh has to offer to the people. So I think that is what is key. So largely, just to close, I think with the onset of obviously this new geopolitical structure of Ladakh, I think it's a good opportunity for us to relook at this tourism industry of Ladakh and create specific strategies, I think, which are contextual to each region. So I just would like to drive home these 6 points for the policymakers sitting here for development of tourism at large, and I think it broadly applies to all the regions of Ladakh. So obviously, first is we heard from one of our speakers that there was a vision document that was created, but I mean, of course, I have not seen it. But I think there's a need for creating a unified sort of inclusive vision document which works as a roadmap for an equitable development of tourism within Ladakh, which means that equal weightage is given to each region and each region is promoted in their own right. Then second is, of course, shifting our focus from mass tourism to niche tourism, because mass tourism, I don't think, is something that needs to be promoted anymore. I think we need to move to niche markets. We need to look at alternative tourism products, because tourism industry as a whole, I think, is an ever evolving industry, and as travelers we are always seeking new and fresher experiences. So as an industry, if we don't innovate, we are definitely not going to sustain. So I think that is the next big step for Ladakh, where we need to look at alternate products and move away from mass tourism. And the third one is investing in soft infrastructure. When I say soft infrastructure, I mean investing in human resources locally, trying to produce skilled human resource in the space, because of course for any service industry that's the backbone. And Ladakh, we are still lagging in that department, so we need to create human resource which are skilled as mountain guides, trekking guides, nature guides, people in the hospitality and the catering sector. As an example, I mean, Nunkun, of course, everybody knows here that it is one of the most popular peaks in Ladakh, and the majority of the expeditions are going there. But even till now, even after, I think they started expeditions in Nunkun since 1930s, even till today, we don't have a single guide from the region of Suru. We just have a couple of guides from the Ladakh region, but majority we have to bring them from outside. So I feel that's a pity. So I think that's one of the major points that we need to focus on. Then, of course, enforcing strict policies and regulations to protect our ecology and the ecosystem. Much has been talked about it. Most of the speakers spoke of it. But of course, enforcing practically construction laws, town planning, protection of our heritage, and solid waste management. These are, I think, one of the key factors to tackle the issues of mass tourism, which has to be in our policy document. And of course, lastly but not the least, sorry, this is the second last point, improving accessibility and connectivity within Ladakh for each of the regions, whether it is Zanskar, Kargil or Leh. We need to improve the accessibility, whether it's road or air connectivity, because that is of course one of the key factors for any management of any tourism destination, and that is obviously going to help to increase the flow of tourists in the region. And lastly, I think we need to focus on we need to appreciate and understand now the power of internet and social media, and we need to think about new marketing strategies to promote Ladakh as a destination, so that we are able to reach to a wider, much diverse market which we are not able to tap into right now. So that's all. I think tourism, in the end, just to close it, I think obviously tourism, I feel, is a sort of an independent, interdependent industry where we are not only benefiting the direct stakeholders, but it also supports a lot of these ancillary industries. So today, on a conservative side, I think I can safely say that it contributes to almost 50% of Ladakh's economy. So obviously going forward, it is going to play a key role in the development of Ladakh, but unfortunately, I don't think we still consider this as a priority sector. So we need to identify that, and we need to push this as a thrust sector and take it a bit more seriously. For me, I think the vision is to work in a new Ladakh where there is equal opportunity for everybody, whether in Kargil, Leh or Zanskar, and where the idea of progress is not at the cost of losing our identity and losing this ecological balance of the fragile ecosystem of Ladakh. And that's how we can set an example for responsible and sustainable tourism to the world. That's all from my side. Thank you very much.